Our second story today takes us back to the 1980s to a stuffy conference room, an awful boss named Mike and one employee who finally had had enough. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. The meeting that ended with a scent of justice. Many years ago, I worked second shift in a corporate production facility with the worst immediate supervisor I have ever encountered. Mike spent most of his time in his office reading or talking on the phone with his wife. Any problems we encountered were met with disdain and disgust, and he usually chose me to blame for most of them and begrudgingly fixed what he could. This usually involved the computer system that none of us were allowed to touch. Our job mainly entailed printing reams of reports for our very clientele and mailing out hard copies and filing backups in our facility. It was fast-paced and exhausting, and coworkers frequently called in, so we were often short-handed and forced to work late. We had one particularly terrible month where reports were sent to the wrong client, backups were filed in the wrong folders, and essentially lost. There were 6 of us. He chose to single me out unfairly, and I got written up and put on 90 days probation. Mind you, had he done any work at all, we wouldn't have been short-staffed. A few months later, we had a large company-wide mandatory meeting, including the whole day shift and the big wigs from the main office. About 30 people packed in a conference room designed to hold about 20. We underlings sat in chairs at the back of the room with my supervisor sitting right by me. It was very stuffy and warm, and the meeting went way longer than anticipated. Every time we thought it was wrapping up, a person would ask another question and extend the meeting 5 to 10 minutes. As the meeting droned on, I felt my guts began to bubble. I was doing everything I could to hold it in, but it was becoming evident that it wasn't going to happen. I squeezed as tight as I could, but once it started to slip, there was no holding it back. Thankfully, it came out silent and then it began to blossom. As soon as the first person in front of us smelled it and turned around, I looked right at my boss and under my breath, but loud enough for the room to hear, exclaimed, "Mike!" with a look of disgust on my face as I scooted away from him. The whole room fell silent and the meeting quickly came to a close as he sat there red-faced and stammering. But I didn't, as everyone quickly exited the room. He made my life a living hell after that, and I quit before he could get me fired. It was worth every bit of it. Oh man, not as satisfying as I hoped. I was looking for something like a pterodactyl swooping in and yanking Mike out of his seat to carry him off to its nest and let its pterodulls feast on his innards, but I guess we'll take what we can get. And our second story, the best productivity hack I found is a locked door and the will to ignore knocking. I work in an office, one of those semi-open layouts where everyone thinks everyone else's time is communal property. My office has a door thankfully, but since I'm in and out a lot, I usually keep it open. The downside, my desk might as well be a revolving door for interruptions. People wander in to ask questions, to gossip, or to start a sentence with quick thing, which never ends up being quick. I try to be patient, I really do, but this week has been chaos. We've had multiple project delays, client changes, and fire drills that weren't literal, but sure felt like them. I'd been staying late every night and still falling behind. Finally, I told my boss, "Hey, I need a few uninterrupted hours to catch up." He nodded and said, "Do what you need to do." Perfect. Permission granted. So I shut my door for the first time in months. Not slammed, not locked, just closed. The office suddenly felt quiet, peaceful, almost luxurious. I could actually hear myself think. I took a deep breath, turned on some low music, and started hammering through my backlog like a machine. Enter Sally. Now Sally is, well, Sally, nice enough, but incapable of understanding boundaries. She's one of those people who believes every problem becomes her problem and by extension mine. She also has a sixth sense for knowing the exact moment I hit a productive rhythm. And that's when she decides she absolutely must interrupt me. So, of course, after 20 blissful minutes of quiet, there's a knock-knock. And before I can even respond, the door opens. "Hey," she says cheerfully, as if I'd invited her in. "Got a sec?" I paste on my customer service smile. "Sure, Sally. What's up?" She proceeds to launch into a long winding explanation about a small task that could have easily been an email. I help her. She leaves and surprise leaves the door cracked open behind her. I stare at the door feeling my eye twitch. I get up, walk over and gently close it again. 10 minutes later, knock. Door opens. "Hey, quick question." I clench my jaw. "Sally again." I remind her politely that I'm trying to work without interruptions. She apologizes genuinely and then spends another 5 minutes explaining why this interruption was different. When she leaves, she does it again. Door left open. At this point, my concentration is gone. Every time she barges in, I lose my place, lose my momentum, and lose another chunk of my sanity. So, I decide to take it one step further. I get up, walk over to the door, and flip the latch. It's one of those simple office locks. Turn it, and boom, you're sealed off from the world. I sit back down, savoring the moment. Ah, blessed silence. I'm halfway through drafting a report when I hear it again. The telltale knock-knock. I smile to myself, waiting. The handle jiggles once, twice, and then there's this satisfying thud as Sally tries to push it open. I don't say a word. There's a pause and another lighter knock. Then the sound of her trying the handle again, as if maybe it was stuck. Finally, she gives the door a shove. Another thud. I can practically picture her frowning at it, confused at her usual walk-right-in technique has failed her. I keep typing, pretending I don't hear a thing. After a moment, her voice comes through the door, muffled. Are you in there? I don't respond. She stands there for a few seconds longer, probably weighing whether to fetch maintenance or just walk away. Eventually, her footsteps fade down the hall. The satisfaction I feel in that moment could power a small city. For the next hour, I work uninterrupted. No knocks, no questions, no cheerful small talk, just quiet productivity. The kind of peace office workers dream about. I clear my entire to-do list for the week and still have time left over to organize my inbox. Later that afternoon, I finally unlock the door and stretch my legs. As I step out, Sally spots me from across the hall. "There you are," she says, hands on her hips. "I thought something happened. Your door was locked." I smile sweetly. "Oh yeah, I mentioned to the boss I needed some uninterrupted time to get caught up. Guess it worked." She blinks, processing that, then forces a laugh. "Well, next time maybe leave a note or something." "Good idea," I say. "Maybe I'll put one up that says, 'Do not disturb unless the building's on fire.'" She gives a tight smile and walks off, clearly mulling over whether that was sarcasm. And just like that, peace was restored. At least for the rest of the week. I got my work done. My boss was happy. And Sally, well, she still knocks sometimes, but she doesn't try the handle anymore. And our next story, Karen tried to prove we weren't really disabled. So, last weekend, my sister, my mom, and I decided to treat ourselves to dinner at one of our favorite restaurants. Nothing fancy, just one of those cozy family-style places with good food and terrible parking. My mom's in a wheelchair and I'm currently hobbling around in a leg brace after a nasty injury. So, having accessible parking isn't just convenient, it's necessary. As we pull into the lot, we spot an open handicap space right near the entrance, Goldmine, and start heading toward it. Across from it, there's another handicap spot already occupied by a blue sedan. As we approach, the blue car starts to back out. But then the driver, a woman in her 40s with the world's most aggressive sunglasses, suddenly stops, pulls back in, and parks again. No big deal. We figure she changed her mind or was just straightening out. We continue forward and park in the open handicap spot. And that's when the storm hit. Before I can even unbuckle my seatbelt, the blue car's door flies open and out storms Karen. Hands on hips, pursed lips, the whole package. She marches right over to us like she's about to write us a ticket herself. "Excuse me," she shouts. "You just stole my parking spot." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "That was my spot. I was backing into it when you came flying in." Now I'm already tired. My leg hurts and my mom's waiting patiently in the back seat. So, I try to stay calm. I tell her, "Ma'am, your car was parked in the spot across from us, not this one. We didn't see anyone backing up." She snaps, "I had my brake lights on. That means I was about to park." My sister, the more patient one, goes, "How exactly were we supposed to see your brake lights when we were coming from the side?" That's when Karen's tone shifts from angry driver to self-appointed medical examiner. "You don't even look handicapped." I just stared at her. "You gotta be kidding me." I open my door and step out, revealing the huge black brace trapped my leg. My sister walks around to help our mom, who's literally sitting in her wheelchair in the back seat. But Karen doesn't miss a beat. She doubles down. "That doesn't mean you need this spot. My 80-year-old mother's in a wheelchair. She needs it more than you do." At this point, my sister asks, "Where is she then?" Karen waved toward the restaurant entrance and says, "Inside." We dropped her off, but we still need this spot for when she comes out. That's when I lose my patience. "Lady, your mother's already inside eating soup. You don't need a parking spot for later. We need it now." Karen starts huffing and puffing and her husband, or maybe her dad, it's hard to tell, limps over, holding a cane, muttering something about disrespectful kids. I ignore him and start helping my mom out of the car. And then out of nowhere, Karen shoves my sister. Not hard enough to knock her down, but definitely enough to cross the line. "You're not even disabled," she screams. "You're just lazy." That was it. I moved forward to block her from getting near my mom and yelled, "Back the hell off." Karen shoves me too, which by the way is not great when you're standing on one good leg. I stumble, catch myself on the car door and yell, "That's assault." Her husband, dad, whatever, tries to step in. But by now, other people in the parking lot are watching. One guy near the restaurant door shouts, "Hey, leave them alone." My sister whips out her phone and starts recording. Karen immediately freezes like she's just realized she might have screwed up. Stop recording me. You don't have my permission. Didn't stop you from attacking us, my sister says. And right on cue, someone from the restaurant must have called the cops because a patrol car pulls into the lot less than 2 minutes later. Now, picture this scene. Karen's red-faced and shouting about her spot. Her husband/dad's trying to limp away quietly. My mom's calmly sitting in her wheelchair, watching it all like it's the best entertainment she's had in months. And I'm standing there with my phone showing the officer the video. The officer listens to both sides, then turns to Karen and says, "Ma'am, from what I'm seeing here, they're clearly the ones who need this space, and you did push her, which makes this assault." Karen's face drains of color. "What? No. I didn't mean to, ma'am." The officer cuts her off. "You need to calm down and step aside." He asks for her ID. Turns out she doesn't even have a valid handicap placard. She's been borrowing her mother's tag. When he points that out, she starts crying. "It's not fair. They took my spot." The officer sighs and tells her she's lucky we're not pressing charges for assault. I'll admit I thought about it, but my mom was already tired. And honestly, I didn't want to spend the evening filling out paperwork. Instead, I just said, "I just want to eat dinner with my family in peace. That's all." He nodded, gave Karen a very stern warning, and told her to leave immediately. She stomped back to her car, muttering something about fake cripples, and peeled out of the lot. As the officer left, he leaned in and said, "You folks handled that better than most would have." And that was that. We finally went inside, got seated, and my mom laughed so hard she nearly tipped her water over. "Only us," she said. "Only us would get assaulted over a parking space." There's something so satisfying about calm people dismantling loud ones without ever raising their voice. Karen showed up convinced she owned public asphalt and left exposed for using her mom's placard. And our last story, the neighbor who claimed my garage left. When I bought my house last summer, it came with a massive pole barn-style garage. It was one of the selling points. Tall ceilings, concrete floor, big doors, and right in the middle of it, a beautiful 4-post car lift bolted into the ground. As a mechanic and car nut, I was thrilled. I'd been dreaming of having a lift for years, but a week after moving in, my new neighbor, we'll call him Dean, wandered over. You know the type. Sunglasses on the head, gold chain, and the personality of a hangover. "Hey there," he said, not even bothering with small talk. "So that lift in your garage? That's mine." I laughed, thinking he was joking. "Yeah, good one." He didn't laugh back. "No, seriously," he said. "I bought it from the estate sale when the last owner passed. Been storing it there until my new shop's ready." At this point, I'm staring at this man trying to process how someone buys a lift and then leaves it bolted to a concrete floor on property they don't own for over a year. "Uh-huh." I said, "Got any paperwork for that?" He shrugged. "Don't need it. Everyone around here knows I bought it." "You can ask anyone." "Yeah, because everyone knows is legally binding, right?" So, here's the backstory. I bought this place from a flipper who'd purchased it from the previous owner's estate. In the purchase agreement between the estate and the flipper, there was a clause giving a few people, including my dear neighbor Dean, 30 days to remove their claimed belongings, which included an old car, a busted trailer, and apparently this lift. By the time I came along, 6 months had passed. The car gone, the trailer gone, the lift still right where it was, looking like it hadn't been touched in years. My purchase contract clearly stated the property was being sold OSIS, meaning whatever was still on site was part of the deal. So I told Dean that you had your 30 days before the guy I bought it from even owned the place. Then he owned it for 6 months. Now I own it. That lift's part of my property. His face twisted up like he'd bitten into a lemon. "You can't just steal something I paid for." "Dean," I said, "you can't store something on someone else's property for 3/4 of a year and then claim ownership when the place sells. That's not how this works." He stormed off, muttering, "We'll see about that," which is the universal sign of someone's about to embarrass themselves. Sure enough, a few days later, I get a knock on the door. It's Dean again, holding what looks like a handwritten invoice. "See? Proof. I paid the estate £500 for that lift." I glanced at it. It wasn't even signed. Just a piece of paper with his name on it and the words for postcar lift paid. No receipt, no letterhead, no signature from the estate executive. It could have been written by a 10-year-old with a crayon. "I'll tell you what," I said. "If you can get the estate's executive to call me and confirm that sale, I'll help you unbolt it myself." He left in a huff. A week later, I got a call, not from Dean, but from my real estate lawyer. Apparently, Dean had tried to report stolen property to the local police. My lawyer had a good laugh. He pulled up my deed, the flipper's closing documents, and the estate paperwork. Everything confirmed that the 30-day clause had expired long before I'd even come into the picture. When the police finally spoke to him, they told him flat out, if you left it on private property after your removal period ended, it legally belongs to the property owner. Dean must have taken that hard because the next morning, I found him standing in his yard glaring across the property line while pretending to water his grass. A few days later, I went out to my garage, cranked up some music, and rolled my car onto my lift for the first time. I made sure to leave the door open facing his house while I did it. He doesn't wave anymore. Yeah, some people just can't handle seeing their property actually being put to use by the person who owns it. I love that the final showdown wasn't some dramatic courtroom scene. It was you casually turning on a garage lift while he pretended to care about his lawn. It's great, really. The man who couldn't be bothered to move his property suddenly learning what forfeit means. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.